Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. And welcome to another exciting episode of the Just Seen podcast. And today, as you've seen from the title, I got an impromptu. Season 13 still ain't back yet. This episode is largely going to say and reveal why season 13 isn't back yet. But it's also going to dive into a few deeper aspects of, myself, the world, and all this other shit that we got going on. I was in a space where, like, as you've seen from the title, it's about flow state and flow and shit. And I've been in a space where I was kind of just out of flow, right? And if you by the I just recently made a post on my Instagram where I was talking about flow and control and things like that. And it kind of just hit me like this morning, like just before the time of this recording, which is why it's an impromptu. That control is something that we need in our lives, but control is it can be a hindrance, it can be a shackle, it can be something that really binds us and ties us down to things that we don't need to be tied down to, right? But then it got me thinking, like, so what is control? Control and flow are kind of one and the same. You feel me? Like, flow, and when you in flow, you're still in control, but you're not trying to control. You know what I'm saying? Like on the Matrix when Neo was fighting Morpheus and shit, and he was like, "Stop trying to hit me and hit me." It's like, get in your flow state, get out of your control state and get in your flow state, because they're inevitably one and the same. And they're one and the same to the context that when I was looking at it, when I was just like kind of meditating and reflecting on what it was that was coming to me, was that it's like the flow state is when you gain absolute control while relinquishing it at the same time. You feel what I'm saying? There's a quote, I want to say by Aristotle or something. It's one of the Greek motherfuckers and shit, where he says, "Whosoever delights in solitude is either a wild beast or a god." I love that quote. But that quote is a testament to flow and control. The wild beast is literally the one who's out of control, right? But the God is the one who's in control. Well, I ain't gonna say in control. The God is in flow. In solitude, when you're observing these two beings or these two entities from the solitude's perspective, what you're seeing still looks like it's out of control. Like, there's no, you can't really discern what it is from the outside looking in. Like, from the external side, it's all out of control, but internally, there's the distinction between flow and control. You feel me? Being out of control and being in flow. And I think sometimes life sends us down paths that put us out of control because it's forcing us to get in flow. You know what I'm saying? And I constantly talk about, the things where we're learning and we're living and we're maneuvering through life in order to, have some kind of control of, like, but you can't control anything. You know what I'm saying? You can't control anything. And I've learned, and I've been observing that, like, control is a means to develop. Right? You need control to develop something. But what happens when you've developed? What happens when you develop? That means now you have to improve. You can't improve in control. You have to improve in flow. So it's like, how, once we get the development down, why is it that we fly out of control and we get out of control when we're trying so hard to control? Is because it's not about you being out of control. It's about you needing to step into flow. You feel me? And I've been, y'all know that I'm back in my music and all these things, and I've been like really trying to control so much shit instead of being in the flow of what things need to be. And I was listening, I was working on this beat, and I just couldn't, I couldn't decide what I needed to write on it. And then I was like, write anything. Like, this is what Pala Cafe flows are about. It's about whatever you feel. You know what I'm saying? Then I started to think about just my content, my pages, and all of that other shit. And I was thinking about my old page, reminiscing, broken that shit got shut down and shit. But I was reminiscing on my old page, and it was like, what was the one thing that really made that page what it was? It was the flow. I was always in flow. I didn't try to control the outcome of the page. I didn't try to control what the page was going to be. I just stayed in flow. I stayed in my own flow, in my own rhythm. And it seemed chaotic. It seemed like I was all over the place, but I was never all over the place. I was always in my flow. And it made me look at my own circumstances now and just everything that I'm going through. And I'm like, okay, when I started off as an entrepreneur, I got out of flow. Like my entrepreneur and adventure was about control and developing and all of these things. And it's like the control is there. It's like I have to get out of control, right? I have to get out of control, not be out of control. I have to get out of control and I have to get into flow if I'm going to make anything else maneuver the correct way. And as I was sitting down, just observing just the next phases and shit, and with the Aries full moon and shit, things just started to click, which ultimately led me to what this episode is going to be. But before we dive heavy into that, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Seen the Grill. Be sure to check out my website at IamJustSeen.com to get all things that are just seen. To all those who tip, donate, and sponsor to the podcast, you are greatly appreciated. To all those who would like to tip, donate, and sponsor to the podcast, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of the podcast. Not the episode, but the podcast itself. And as always, Cash App and PayPal are just fine. And you know the vibes. That's that for this and that's this for that. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into, I don't know what number this is, but it's Impromptu Pop-Ups, Flow State. And don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the Soul For Real series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the markets for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So take a quick peek into my world to see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it, and you will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. Welcome back. Ow. And without further ado, let's dive heavy straight into this motherfucker, right? So if you hearing, then you can see the quality of my recordings, my production on these things have gotten significantly greater because this is something that I've been working on for a while, learning how to master, mix, EQ, compress, fucking saturate, do all kind of, specific shit. So this is solely on my music side. But a lot of it I was practicing and getting stronger with through the podcast material and shit because it's like, all right, I got to get my vocal right. You know what I'm saying? Like once I can get the vocal right, I can build the mix around it. It's easy. So I was, diving in, studying, mixing and everything like that. But that kind of got me in control. That made me have to control this because I was developing the skill set, right? But to the point where I was making about being out of control and getting out of control, not being out of control, but getting out of control. It comes to a point where it's like, I want to say Miles Davis. He was saying you learn the rules and you forget the rules and play. It's like, damn. You learn the science behind the shit and you develop the art and you just let the art show. Like all the other technical shit goes out of the window when art is in play. But if you're trying to create art through a technical perspective, you can't do it. It becomes impossible. It becomes hard. So to the point that I was saying about the EQ and everything, like I was trying to find, strict, stringent rules that I followed. Okay, let me set up this template and cut my voice here and boost here and EQ here and do all these things. And it's like, do what needs to be done. Like, don't try to do something, but do what needs to be done. Like sometimes my voice doesn't need a cut at a certain point. Sometimes I didn't record a vocal that needed the high pass filter so high. You feel what I'm saying? Sometimes you just got to see what is needed and then go into that. And that's when it was, okay, step out of control and step into flow. You feel me? I got so wrapped up in wanting to be in control of everything that I didn't know how to be in the flow of anything. You feel what I'm saying? And that's where the artistry comes in from. Being in flow. As a lyricist, wordsmith and shit, I put words together and I do it pretty good. You know what I'm saying? But I've learned that, like, when I'm in my quote unquote zone, when I'm flowing, it's like, how does flow work? Then it led me to this Bruce Lee quote, you know, about water. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be water. And then I know what he was meaning and implying, and I knew at the time it was like, yo, be fluid, be like water, you gotta flow. He said, when water needs to fill a cup, it becomes the cup. When it needs to crash, it crashes. When it needs to be still, it's still. It's like water flows. And I think in observing water, I got so wrapped up in it running that I mistook it for flowing. Like when you turn the spigot on, the water is flowing, the water is running, or whatever the case may be. But what is it for water to really flow? I've been, in my Zen mode and shit, studying, the elements and getting back into, astrology and my esoteric sciences and shit, because I've been completely away from them and shit. But even in those and studying them, it was all about trying to be in control, trying to be in control. And there's a limitation to control, and it creates rigidity that doesn't allow the flexibility that flow needs. You feel what I'm saying? And without flow, you can't grow. Bars. Damn. Without flow, you can't grow. Because even if we look at a tree, when we look at plants, when we look at things, how they grow out of the ground, it's like there's no structure to how they grow. They just get out of the dirt. Like that's the thing. I have to flow. You feel me? And whatever comes out of my flow is what was supposed to grow. You feel what I'm saying? But when we try to bring things out of our control, it doesn't grow correctly. You feel what I'm saying? It grows with hindrance. It grows with rigidity. And rigidity, there's nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to be rigid. You have to, even if we're looking at the water metaphor and the water example, water still has 3 states. It has solid, liquid, and gas. You feel me? The water state, the liquid state, is the in-between state that is in between full rigidity and full flexibility. You feel what I'm saying? The liquid state is where it falls in between that. So I had to sit back and I had to look at flow for real, because I'm like, I'm not in flow. But I had to learn to look at the distinctions and the separations between the two, because I'm like, all right, with the moments when I was in flow, I felt like I was out of control. And this is when it spins back to, the wild beast and the God. You feel what I'm saying? Because on the outside looking in, I'm in flow, but a motherfucker tell me, yo, you're out of control. And they would be right. But rather than acknowledging or knowing that I'm not out of control, I'm in flow. And it's hard to explain the difference between the two until I'm doing it now. But it was hard to explain the difference between the two, because it's like, what does that mean for me? If I'm allowing you to tell me that I'm out of control, then I just accept it when I know that I'm in flow. But I don't know that I'm in flow because I haven't put the right words to it. But then even in being in flow, it's like, am I really in flow or out of control? Because what's the delineating factor to let you know when you're in one and when you're out of the other? And I feel like that is fruit. That is results. You know what I'm saying? When you're out of control, you're not producing any results. There's no tangible results that are coming from it. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in flow, it's like, it's multiplying. It's exponential. Like the shit doesn't stop. It seems like you can't miss. Because what it is you've taken everything that you've learned, everything that you gained, everything that you applied, and you apply it where necessary. So back to the point of, the music production, and even, like I said, even now listening to the vocals of how clear they sound, how smooth they sound, how quiet radio type shit, nigga. It's because I stepped out of the control. I stepped out of control and then I stepped into the flow. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're out of the control, when you're in control, for one, that's the gateway to be out of control, because certain things can't be bound. Even if we're looking at it from the esoteric perspective of masculinity and femininity, where we're looking at, 360 degrees, when we're looking at the squares and the circles, or all of these things, like the square and the circle are the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Measurement wise, they're the same thing, but they're still different, because the square is finite, the circle is infinite. You feel what I'm saying? When you're in control, you're square, in a way. Not like you corny or no shit like that, but you're square when you're in control. You feel me? But when you're out of control, you remove yourself from the binds of the square. But when you're in flow, you now step into the circle. You know what I'm saying? And I'm using these shapes and these allegories and metaphors to actually paint the picture, because I don't want it to seem like, you just disband one to take up the other. No, they're the same shit. They're the same shit, but it derives from whether or not you're attuned to what that same shit really is. You feel what I'm saying? And it can become difficult. I can't lie. It can definitely become difficult, because where do you go when you're not in flow? You know what I'm saying? And for all of my life, as a writer, as a lyricist, or whatever, like creating words, I've never had a writer's block. That's something that I can honestly say. I've never had a writer's block up until recently. This was like the first time I had a block where I was like, I don't know what to write. I don't have anything to write. And I didn't have anything to write because I was trying to be in control of what I was writing, which is the whole premise of Palakave flows and shit. It's like, it's unbound. It's in flow. You know what I'm saying? The subject matter remains. The contextual point of what I'm talking about, it stays there, but it's always in flow. It's never in control, but like I said, when you're in flow, it can simultaneously appear to be in control and out of control at the same time, because it's like, yo, what are you doing? I know what I'm doing. But then it's like, when you try to define what you're doing as opposed to just doing it, it's where you start getting out of control. You feel me? That gets heavy. That gets heavy. That gets real heavy, because where do you go after that? Where do you go after that? Because when you're torn and you're conflicted between being out of control and not being, and when you're torn between being out of control and in control, and you know, like, yo, I got this, I know what I'm doing, but it's just something isn't hitting right. You feel me? You can't move the right way. You try to stick to certain things. This is something that really came to me, like, when I looked at when I was looking at, like, doing post-trade analysis on trades and shit. It's like, the trades, like, with trading, I like, the last couple months, like, I've been on some bullshit and didn't know why. And the bullshit that I was on was because I got so heavily involved in perfecting this craft that I didn't realize that I had already perfected it. Yeah, I know. You call the shit master in the market, but beyond the course that I created, the course is done. You feel me? The courses get you right. It's no ifs, ands, and maybes about that shit. Like, the testimonials are real. All my students, they do their thing. I wanted to go beyond that, because I wanted to have no leaf left unturned. I wanted to get to a point where, and I was making a post about this on Threads, where I was saying, and I even posted on Instagram too, where I was saying, like, yo, I finally learned how to get in at the start of a pump on crypto, which translates to other things, where if I'm in Forex, if I'm in stocks or whatever, I can get in when the movement starts, as opposed to being a part of a movement that's already running. Because basically that's how I, teach it. Like, you feel me? You find a pocket, which is basically the start of a trend or a movement in the trend, and then you ride that wave back up, or whatever the case may be. But I'm like, how do I find where the actual trend starts? How do I find the moment where, okay, they're completely done doing one thing and now they're going to start doing the other? You feel me? I wanted that. I needed that. I needed that perfection. I needed that. And that's a testament to flow and control, because I needed that control. And it's something that I really didn't need. But I had already told myself and already programmed myself that I needed it. I needed it. I needed it. So I was digging deep, kept pushing, trial and error, trying to figure out every possible thing. Then it got to a point where it's like, yo, there's nothing else to learn. There's nothing else that you can see out of this shit. Everything else just has to be in flow. Everything has to be in a mean flow state. And you have to step out of what it is, because when you're trading, right? Let's say, so how I like to do it, and this is how I teach my students and shit. Like, I like to open up the markets. Like, I let a daily candle close. So let's say if I'm looking at Forex, I start analyzing my charts after 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's when a full daily candle is closed. So I'm basically moving with that daily player, or whatever the case may be. All right, so today you can be buying, or whatever the case may be. But once you find the direction, right, now you have to find the control. You feel me? You have to find who's controlling the market. So I know that the buying is going to happen. I know this, that, and the third, blah, 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 and all of that. But then now there's, got the pullback, the battlefield, the upper hand, the final push. That all have to be seen and be there. But it's like, it doesn't show up the same way every time. You feel me? And I was so wrapped up in, let me get the perfect price. It's like, no, you have to flow to the price that's going to give you what you need. You feel me? So when finding the mastery in that, finding the perfection in that, I got out of control by trying to maintain control. But I never stepped back into flow. You feel me? And this is the point that I'm making with that, because it's like when you open your charts and you analyze a candle, okay, that candle is a piece of what story? Like, where are you at? So like, translating it to crypto and how it, worked with crypto, like, it's like I cheat with crypto in a way, because I cheat with all of them. Well, it ain't really cheating, because it's like, once you know the mechanics of it, it's not cheating. But it's like, when you find this major move, crypto is dope because it'll show you, like, okay, within the last 24 hours, and crypto stays open 24/7. Those markets is open 24/7. So that market doesn't necessarily move from 5 p.m. to 5 p.m. It moves from 8 p.m. to 8 p.m. Right? That's a daily candle. So it's like, what I'll do is I'll see something that made the most dramatic move. You feel me? Crypto is wild. Like, that shit'll go like 30%, 50%, 150% in a single day, right? So it's like, I wanted those moves. I wanted those plays. And I was like, I got to figure out how I can get those. But you don't know that it's going to move 100%. It just does it. You know what I'm saying? But you can time it in a way in which, okay, one side is finally dying, okay? So what I would do is let's say I'm looking at a cryptocurrency that has moved up 50% within the last 24 hours, right? From that, I know one or two things have happened. Well, really only one thing has really happened, really, for the most part. An upper hand has just been developed. So because of the knowledge base that I have behind this, it now opens up a bigger world, because now I can skip several points, right? The buy, being that it's let's say it's a buying candle and it's gone up 50%, right? I already know it's a buying candle. So what does this already tell me? Boom. I already know I'm in a buying pocket. I can skip that, right? Now I need to pull back the battlefield and upper hand, final push. But now when it made such a dramatic move, and now I can see, okay, it came from, to go up 100, to go up 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, all of those, chances are there's an upper hand. So I'm already skipping 2 phases. You feel me? I already know the pocket. Now I'm skipping the pocket, the pullback, and I'm skipping the battlefield, right? Because the upper hand is already taking all of that out. So now what do I have to do? Wait for the final push, right? Let it run down for the fucking final push. And that, being able to skip, being able to move according to that, is like, okay, there's a flow you have to get into. But if my mind is wired to the control, I'm no longer looking at the position that I'm in. I'm looking at what happened. You feel what I'm saying? I'm looking at what happened. And it's like, okay, so this particular move, if I start it and I don't know, and I don't use it as the upper hand, I'm looking at it as the start of the pocket. How does that affect everything? Because it now moves the phases. If this major move is actually an upper hand, but I'm treating it like the start of a pocket, I'm now waiting longer. Not only am I waiting longer, I'm no longer understanding what I'm doing. But here's the caveat to that. There are times when that push, that dramatic push, is not an upper hand, but it is the start of a new pocket. You see what I'm saying? So it goes into, okay, you don't have the control. You know, so when you try to control it and say, okay, this happened, so now let me follow all of the rules that I normally set. Pocket, pull back, battlefield, upper hand, final push. Pocket, pull back, battlefield, upper hand. You skip the flow of knowing, where are you right now? And what's happening? You feel me? What is happening? When you're observing this candle, is the wick powerful? Is the upper limit wick powerful? Is the lower limit wick powerful? Like, what is the power that is being pushed within the market right now? Because that's going to dictate how you need to flow. That's going to dictate where you need to come back to. You feel me? If you're going to come back. You feel me? But then when you try to piece it off of, and this is a part of, control, being in control and being out of control. When you try to piece it off of what you saw in a previous trade or what you saw happen from a previous movement, a very similar movement, no two movements are the same, no matter how similar they are. You feel what I'm saying? There's a whole story that has to be told that you have to let right out. You know what I'm saying? But you got to know where you are in the story. It's almost like, and this is why I use heroes and villains when I'm talking about trading and investing and shit, because I'm like, I base it off of a movie. Like all hero movies had the same premise, bro. Yeah, they have pretty much the same premise. You're introduced to the hero, you're introduced to the villain, you get the conflict, and then you get the moment where one side takes over, and then you get the final battle where the movie ends. You know what I'm saying? It's weird how it plays out, but that's how I was able to parallel it, to the markets and shit. But like I said, being in control, I try to, look at it as, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It don't work like that. Sometimes you start off in 4 and you it's, if you just walked into a room, let's say before streaming and shit, it's fucking 7:15. You feel me? A movie's been on since 5. What part of the movie are you walking in on? You feel what I'm saying? You would ultimately have to rewind the movie to get back to the beginning to see the whole story. Or you could look at the movie for where it is and say, okay, bet I know what part of the movie I'm in. I'm close to the end. I'm close to where, things are supposed to play out a certain way. That's what it is to be in flow. To be in flow means that when you engage, you know where you're engaging at. Because you have developed so much from this, what I was talking about, development and improvement with control and flow respectively. When you have been in control for so long, you know the development. You know what you're supposed to see. Now, when you in flow, you can enter that development at any point and still be able to move. Now, taking it back to the 360 degrees with the circle and the square. A circle has an infinite amount of possibilities that it can start and end. But you got to know what part of the circle you're in. You feel me? You got to know what part of the circle you're in. With a square, there's a finite amount of abilities. There's only 4 corners. So there's only a small amount of start and ends that you can actually have. But a circle is different. The circle is different because that's when it requires you to be in flow. You feel me? Because like, where am I in this circle? Excuse me. Hey, that's the first time I've ever sneezed, I think, on a podcast episode. My bad. Excuse me. And I might do it again. Hold on. And I might be out. But yeah, that's the flow of it all. You know what I'm saying? You get into that circle and you're saying, okay, now there's an infinite. I'm in the middle of infinity, but because I'm well aware of the full development I have, now I can move according to where I am. You feel me? Now this is gonna segue a little bit. It's like, yo, you seem like you're jumping around, because I am jumping around, but all of these stories are gonna mesh to the grand scheme of it all. So when I tie it into my social media, right, I've gotten into a point where it's just like, I gotten so focused on the growth and getting back to, the numbers that I had, the all of the other shit I wasn't paying attention. Like, I'm actually doing very phenomenally numbers wise. You know what I'm saying? It's almost unreal how it's happening. And I can't put two and two together because it's confusing me, because it's like with my old page, I would be reaching about 30,000 to 50,000 people, but I had 7,500 followers. So it's like now I'm reaching 20 to 30,000, and these are both 30-day time frames in a month, and it's like I only have 150. It's like, how? What is it? And now it's like that bridge, that disconnect is there, because it's like, well, if this is happening, why isn't my page the same way as it was before? You feel me? So the reason why I said that is because I got too controlled with it. You know what I'm saying? Which ultimately sends you out of control when the control isn't giving you what you're looking for. It's hard to get into the flow because you're looking for the reward. And it's like, nah, it's the process. You got to get into the phase of the process. So what I would do is I would make a post I would come up, I have an idea, right? And I'll make a thread or whatever, and I'll save it. Then it's like I'll post a lot of threads. Then so I end up going back a long time to get the post, and it's like I'm not feeling it anymore. I'm not feeling why I originally said that post. So now I'm making up a caption. I'm making up a full carousel when I'm actually saying, okay, let me transfer this over to Instagram. And it's like when I started thinking back to the old page, it was like, yo, in the moments when you post it, when the thought came, you went on ahead and created the idea, you went on ahead and created it and posted it, and it was done. Now it's like it's more time, because now I'm having to go back to the original. Like, what was I thinking when I said that? It doesn't matter what you were thinking when you said, what are you thinking now? Because this is a whole different environment. This is a whole different mindset. Like, even though, let's say I go back 3-4 days on a post and shit, it's like, yo, like a lot has happened in 3-4 days. I'm a totally different person. I'm being dramatic, but I'm a different person than I was 3 days ago. The fuck? So what I was thinking 3 days ago, there's events that have transpired since that post, since that moment, that have changed me in a way. Even though there's subtle changes, they've changed me in a way to where it's like, now I don't even feel like posting this because I don't know the post, but it's like, I gotta post it, because if I don't post it, what's gonna happen? If I don't get this done, what's gonna happen? It's like, where did I lose the flow? And like I said, trying to be in control got me out of control. You feel what I'm saying? It got me out of control, because now it's like I no longer feel this social media shit. I no longer feel it because I'm trying to use it instead of just having fun with it and creating the art that I create. You dig what I'm saying? And it's keeping me from being in flow. You feel me? So it's like, at the time of this recording, the day of this recording and shit, I don't know what it is about me. I have to do things, and this is a part of the control that I'm talking about. It's like, once I say, okay, I got to do something, so I feel like I have to stick to it, or I have to do it that way forever. Like, what I mean by that is that, being that I had, let's say I have like 20, 30 thoughts that I put on threads that I'm like, yo, these got to translate to Instagram posts. So it's like I'm constantly having to go back and revisit, and I can't stay in the moment. You know. So what I was saying was, at the time of this post, like you might have seen me like flood the timeline for the day just to get caught up and say, okay, why do I need to get caught up? Like, the moment expired, and this led me to see a bigger picture, because it's like, when we're trying to remain in control, I ain't gonna say we, because this is really my revelation in this shit, but I observe it within other people. Like, when we're trying to remain in control, we get to a point where we got to get caught up, where we got to constantly catch up, and it's hard to stay in the moment. And it's hard to stay in the moment because you've accumulated so much in the past on the backside that you feel like you have to close the gap between the past and the present. That's the moment you lose control. It's supposed to be the moment you step into flow, but you don't step into flow, you lose control. You feel me? Or you step out of control, as opposed to stepping into flow because you're trying to control it. You feel me? When I was in med school, they had this thing where They were saying, like, the cut of the pancakes and shit. If you miss a lecture, now you're trying to get caught up and everything like that. So it's like once you miss one or two, that's it. You can hang it up. You can hang it up because it's like the lectures don't stop. So you were supposed to be on point on that lecture, but it's like, how do you get into the flow of that? So now with the control, you're trying to play catch up, but you're always now going to be behind because you had to go back to try to bridge the gap between the past and the now. I use that example because in life, we do this. In life, we do this. They teach us so much about our mistakes and our errors and the things of that nature and just anything. You revisit the past and you want to close the gap up to the present. Let me clean all of this up. Let me get all of this, and that's cool. I'm not saying don't go back and clean up your past or no shit like that, but sometimes to clean up the past, you have to go into the future. But if you stay in the past and never allow the past to catch up to the present, you'll never be able to reach the future. You feel what I'm saying? You'll always be running to it because the gap keeps getting wider and wider as things of the past accumulate. As opposed to tweaking and saying, the further I can get into the future, the more the past will clean itself up. You feel me? The more the things that I've gone through, the things that I need to, they'll fix themselves and they'll be fixed as I fix things going forward. You see what I'm saying? Now to the point of the social media side again. If I keep going back trying to post old posts, it's like that gap is going to keep getting wider and wider and wider because my thoughts are coming faster than I'm posting. And if I'm posting and saying I'll save this for later because I just posted 15 minutes ago, who the fuck cares? And again, this was something that I had to come to when I was reevaluating, what was going on and what was transpiring on my old page. It's like, I didn't give a fuck about the time. I will give you 2 or 3 back to back because the thought came like that. But now I'm trying to be, business oriented and business minded and focus on here's the rules. Fuck the rules, bro. The rules never applied. The rules never applied. And what I was doing, building for the when I was being in flow, it was get the shit done in this moment. Now it's no longer lingering in my head that I got to go back and post this. And it didn't hit me till literally this between yesterday and today. I'm looking at this shit like, bruh, I got like 20 posts that I got to catch up. My threads will never match. My threads posts will never match my Instagram posts. And if I keep going back, it's like, I'm not even feeling that shit no more. And now I'm no longer in flow. I can't flow with this content anymore. Now I'm out of control with it because I'm trying to be in control. It's a paradox. Like I'm literally out of control with this shit because I am trying to be in control with this shit. It's like, but now I want everybody to get the thought that I had today and da-da-da, this, that, and third. It's like, no, that's not what you do it for. That's not what you've ever done it for. But I had to realize that there was a separation because in the past, it was because I was always in flow. That's the delineating factor. That's the thing that makes it so much more what it was. And this lesson has taught me that this doesn't, like, the way life works, something that's transpiring in one part of your life is manifesting in all aspects of your life. That's why it's manifesting in that one part of your life. From the one come the all, therefore the all is the one. You feel what I'm saying? If you're exhibiting something in one area of your life, you're going to be exhibiting it in other areas of your life too. That's why it's so hard to see, because you're applying the same tactic to everything. And I'm saying that because now when I look at the trading side and these two things are running concurrent, I am simultaneously doing the same thing in both of these worlds, which was giving me blockages on both sides. But then I had to look internally. It's like, yo, you're doing this with everything because this is the state that you're in. Now, here's a different side to flow state. Flow state is flow state. Like the bitch is going to be there. So now if you step into flow state while you're out of control, you're going to flow out of control. Like being out of control is going to be autonomous. Like you're going to be doing the shit that you don't want to do. Fluidly. You're going to fluidly do what you don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? If you constantly do something the wrong way, right, and you now step into a flow state with that, you're just going to keep doing that thing the wrong way. Yeah, it's going to be like, okay, why am I not, why do I keep doing it wrong? Because you're in flow with that. You know, and it's like, well, I thought you said that in flow and out of control. If you step into the flow state, right? It's the avatar state, whatever you want to call it. When you step into the flow state with whatever it is you're doing, when you're now moving autonomously, if you're stepping into flow state with doing something wrong, you're going to do it wrong. The mind doesn't give a fuck. The mind precedes the actions, right? So however your mind is wired, that's the actions it's going to produce. Simple as that. And it's definitely as complex as that. But the position that your mind is in is the position that your actions are going to be. Because the flow state is going to take over. It's like, all right, this is what you wired. Okay, I know you keep doing this the wrong way, but we're just going to keep doing it the wrong way because it's the way you want to do it. Like they say, if you say you can't, if you think you can't, you can't. If you think you can, you can't. You can. If you think you will, you will. If you think you won't, you won't. Right? Because the action is going to be preceded that. Because something that I always tell people is that when you look at what you can and can't do, the mind doesn't just like shut it down. It creates the world in which that is possible. I'm going to say that again. When you speak towards what you can and can't do, the mind doesn't activate or deactivate. It creates the world based off of that. So if you say I'm not a good fighter, the mind doesn't create a world. The mind doesn't just like make you not a good fighter. It creates a world in which you can't fight good. It helps you create a world in which you can't fight good to validate the fact that you're not a good fighter. You feel what I'm saying? The mind doesn't, it's beautiful because the mind doesn't perceive negatives. You feel me? Simple as this. If somebody tells you don't look at a certain thing, you're going to look. Right? You somehow is going to wire you because it cannot perceive that you can't do something. That's a crazy paradox when you really think about it. The mind doesn't perceive what you can't do. It just makes you do the opposite of it. It just makes you do the opposite of what you can, or what you could or would do. You feel what I'm saying? So if you've already wired the mind to do the wrong thing, it's going to make you do the wrong thing. If you wired the mind to do the right thing, it's going to do the right thing when the flow state kicks in. Right? So this is why it's imperative that you step into flow and step out of control. You step into flow and let the flow state kick in because now you're doing it right or you're going for the desired result. You feel me? And you fucking with me, walk with me. You know what I'm saying? So to the Instagram page, you feel me? I had gotten so wired to, this structure, this flow, this business side of it all. And it's like, okay, you got to make this post every 2 hours, post this, that, and the third, because you want to, like, there's so many rules that I now have that I don't know how to be in flow anymore. But I didn't know how to be in flow social media wise. This now goes back into beginner's luck. This goes into veteran's experience. This goes into so many different things because it's like learning how the algorithm works, learning how to beat shadow bans. Like, yo, nigga, I think that hindrance, this might drive the rest of the episode. That hindrance of being shadow banned for 3 years is something that I never wanted to have happen again. Which made me step into how I have to control my content. I had to stop being in flow with my content because being in flow is what got me shadow banned. So I perceive. Because I wasn't paying attention to the fact that it was like, no, nigga, it's not you. It's the people that are fucking with your content that have it this way because of whatever they do or whatever. But now you're trying to build all of this with the shadow ban in the back of your mind. On a subconscious level, tying it back in, when you hit your flow state, and when I hit my flow state and the undercurrent is that I don't want to get shadow banned, what you think I'm going to do? Now I'm going to be extra strategic. I'm going to make sure I don't use I'm going to make sure I don't use banned hashtags. I'm going to make sure that I post in spaces like, okay, give it enough time to breathe. I'm going to follow, like, all of these things are things that I have learned about the algorithm that I'm about to be talking about. I have learned about the golden hour, where you post your content, you give it time to reach the audiences, so that way it knows who it can deliver it to before it goes out. You give it time to breathe. And it's like, when you put so many rules and so many restrictions, you can't flow. You feel what I'm saying? You can't be fluid anymore. You have to be rigid. And when you're rigid, you don't move. There's no movement. There's no movement in rigidity. Therefore, you can't flow when you're rigid, which means that, so now when you tie rigidity to control, it's like when you're in control, when you're too in control, you can't move. There's no growth. There's no opportunities for advancement. There's none of that. Now, the desire is to be able to flow, but you can't flow when you're rigid. You cannot be fluid when you're rigid. The two things don't work out. But that's what flexibility is. Flexibility is the balance between rigidity and fluidity. To know when to be what. But like I said, trying to rebuild my page with the undercurrent so heavily ingrained with everything that I do, of trying not to be shadow banned. All I'm doing is posting in a way that doesn't get me shadow banned. Cool. But I'm no longer posting in a way that's going to let me grow. Because the very things that got me shadow banned are also the very things that helped me grow. The very methods and tactics that I used that ended up getting me shadow banned were also the things that helped me grow. You feel me? I chose to walk away from that because of the shadow ban, and not seeing the duality of the duality of the reality, the duality of the reality with the constitutions and the mestitutions of the. Nah, let me stop pushing. I just had to break the tension a little bit, but but the duality of the reality was that the shadow ban was an effect. It wasn't the cause. It was an effect. This goes back into the 12 laws of the universe that I did in season 12. Cause and effect. The shadow ban for me was an effect. It wasn't a cause. But by making it a cause, I now generated different effects. You dig what I'm saying? Which affected the flow state, which affected how I could be in flow with this. You feel what I'm saying? Even back to trading, right? When I had got so locked in, and the trading thing, the trading shit even went back to where I had a bad student. I had a bad one-on-one session and shit, or the motherfucker didn't get, I'm like, damn, do I not know what I'm doing? I now shifted my entire approach to teaching, trading, and investing based off of that one person. That affected my flow state with that. I stopped looking at all of the people who have gone on that have been successful with the shit. I look at the one person who was failing. That affected my flow state, because that now is the tailwind that guides my flow. So now when we look at the things that we experience in life, how, I don't know if we're wired this way. I don't think we are. But when people teach you about humility, when people teach you about, like certain shit, they teach you to focus on your failures. They teach you to humble. When people teach you humility, they never teach you exaltation. When people wire you to be humble, they never wire you to be exalted. You feel what I'm saying? So now that creates a tailwind that is going to guide your flow, because you're always going to flow according to being humble. I remember one time, my older brother, he heard my music for the first time. He said, yo, you're pretty good. I said, nigga, I'm dope. I'm dope. Don't get a big head, bro. Don't get a big head. Be humble. No, there's nothing to be humble for. I'm nice. Nigga, you just told me how nice I was and I can't affirm it. How often do we do that? How often and how wired is it within us to go against ourselves? Simply because of the idea of being humble. So now your entire tailwind is based off of humility. So no matter how good you are, you won't be great. I'm going to say that shit again. No matter how good you are, you won't be great, and your flow state will not allow greatness. Which means there's no improvement. When I first started, from the time I first started rapping, let's say up until that point, when my brother, when me and my brother had that conversation, whatever the case may be, I didn't let it get to me, don't get me wrong, but I had improved significantly. Like my lyricism, my pen is crazy. But that that makes you plateau off at some point. Because when you can't get into flow, you can't improve. When you stay in control, yeah, you become rigid. Yeah, you balance off. It's one of those things where I'm looking at like the best versus better. Everybody strives to be the best. That's a limit. The best is a limitation. There's no limitation to being better. But being better is your flow state. Being best is when you're in control. What do you do when you become the best? You stop. There's no stopping when you become better because it's the state of improvement. Being the best is a matter of development. Being better is a matter of improvement. You can be better than the best. No matter how many people try to tell you that you can be better than the best because the best has a plateau. I'm going to use this example. In the early 1900s, they said, like, what was it? I think the fastest running time probably had to be like a 40. I think it had to be like 4.8 or some shit like that. 4.7, 4.8, somewhere around there. That was the fastest. They said if you run faster than that, your heart will go out. Your heart will bust or whatever the case may be. That's what they told. Until one person ran faster than a 4.8. Then it became a 4.4. It's like, oh, you can't run faster than a 4.4. Till one person ran faster than a 4.4. To now, niggas can run 4.2s, 4.1s. Eventually to get to a point, I say probably within if we can keep this trajectory, somebody probably be able to run a 40 in 3.9. Now, granted, this ain't gonna be next week, no shit like that. No, the limitation gets shattered. Once one person, that's the power of flow. Once one person gets into that flow state and breaks the barrier no longer exists for anybody. All you keep hearing is get into the markets, but do you trade or do you invest? Should you do stocks, Forex, crypto, or NFTs? My personal answer is not a single one if you don't know how to read a chart. Without knowing how to read a chart, you end up giving all your money to those who do. Do you know what a candle is? Do you know the pocket of activity? Do you know the difference between market direction and market control? If you answer no at least once, you might want to learn how to read a chart first. Learning how to read a chart will let you know if you should trade or invest and if you should do stocks, Forex, crypto, and or NFTs. It will also let you know if this is even for you or not. So visit IamJustSeen.com to learn how to read charts with my Mastering the Market course, ebooks, and webinars today. The world is changing. The question is, will you adapt with it? But you got to be in flow to do that because you got to be willing to get better. If you are under the control, you can only be the best. You dig what I'm saying? And I think this is by design. There's always, once they find that one entity that they want to glorify and say you can't be better than, anything you like, Michael Jordan, he's the best. Are there people better than Jordan? Yeah. Do we know them? Not really. Because it leads up to speculation. But if Michael Jordan is the best, it doesn't matter how good you get, you always stop short of that. If they took it off, and this is why you get statistics, this is why you get all these different things, because there's so many criteria to say you can't be the best. I could be better than the best. You feel me? Right now, look, right now, LeBron James is the best scorer to ever play the game. Like, niggas be like, oh, it's such and such is better. Like, nigga, how can you be a better scorer if you don't have the most points, nigga? It's that simple. I get it. We want to talk about the effectiveness of how this person can score. But, nigga, if you don't have all of the scoring points, nigga, you not the best. You can't be the best. So LeBron has the most points in NBA history. Nobody can do that again. I mentioned this in the previous podcast episode. Nobody can do that again. You know why nobody can do that again? Because of the criteria required to do that. For LeBron James to have that many points, he came in from high school. You can't come in high school no more. Do you see how they structure it to where you can't be better than the best anymore? Once they define what the best is, they start to put the parameters and the borders. They control the shit that won't allow you to flow. You dig what I'm saying? So you can't be better. You can only be the best. And I know we look at the best as the highest expectation, but it's not. Because the best ceases to exist once you get better than the best. You see what I'm saying? But that limitation is always going to be there. And that limitation is always going to prevent you from being in your flow state. So it seems like I got off, but I didn't. So now tying that back, there's always going to be that undercurrent. The undercurrent of what this standard is, I can't surpass that. So if I'm moving through my flow state, if I'm in my avatar state, if I'm in my flow state naturally, and I have these undercurrents that I have to maneuver according to this is why I was talking about the shadow band. It's going to affect how I produce my content. I'm daily in and out going to be trying to say, do everything you're supposed to do, but don't do shadow band. That means I can't flow. I can't say what I want to say. I can't do what I want to do. I can't move on social media the way I want to move. I got to be structured. I got to be a certain way that doesn't allow me to be shadow banned. That has impacted me for a long time. Like I'm literally in this conversation. It's like I'm finally coming to terms with why I do what I do on social media now. I used to post a lot. A lot. But then it got to, oh, well, you don't want audience fatigue. You don't want this, then the third. Fuck that. If this is what you want to do it. But the moment you put that undercurrent, or you put that tailwind behind it, that is a tailwind of limitation, you're going to be limited. You feel what I'm saying? You're going to be limited. So, like I was saying, it's like when I get the moments, I can't post yet because I just posted 15 minutes ago. So, I never gave a fuck about that before. It was like, well, you got to use hashtags to do this. I didn't grow with hashtags the first time. I'm using them now. Let me tell you why I'm using them now, because this is a different side of, the flow and everything. It's like, okay, now I understand the methodology behind a hashtag. A hashtag is some wild shit. When you really sit and realize it, it's like hashtags are a means to get you to a certain destination, right? So it's like I use, and this was trial and error. This was me actually learning the science and the methodology behind a hashtag in a social media context, right? The tags basically store data. So it's like, I learned now that it's like, oh, I don't need to go out and use random hashtags. Say, hey, my audience is here. Because this was something that I was doing as I started to develop it. It was like, yeah, I know my audience is black people and this, that, and the third. And so it's like, all right, fuck it. It's like, it is what it is. So my hashtags will always be something like black consciousness, black this, that, and that. It's like, sometimes less is more. Because then when I learned the science behind a hashtag, it's like when they say you want to grow, you want your content to grow, you want it to be in the explore pages, you want to be here in all of these different places. But it's like, what does that do? What is the purpose of that actually for? What is that for? If you don't know why you're doing something, why are you doing something? That's wild when you really think about that simple, idea. Ask the average person why they're doing something and they can't tell you why they're doing it. It's like, so why are you doing it? Because you need a reason to do something. Therefore, you can't get into control. You can't even get into control to get into flow when you don't know why. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at the social media marketers and the managers and shit that teach you how to grow your social media account or the things that they do, they leave out a lot of information. It's like, yeah, you want to have your destination tags. You want to start off at, do a broad tag, broad tag, a niche tag, a pillar tag, and then a personal tag or whatever. You want to start to refine it because you want the algorithm. Like, nah, you got to work the other way. Like they're moving for virality, not to be viral. You know, and when you want to be viral as opposed to being viral, you're not building a foundation. So one thing that I learned is like, okay, these hashtags store data points. Yeah, I can use the Black Consciousness hashtag because that's usually who my content is going for. Or I can rely on the people that I already have on my page. Like they be saying you need large accounts to grow. Like, no, you don't. You just need to understand the methodology behind a lot of shit. When you get a concentrated amount of people, right, to engage a certain way, now you use a brand hashtag. You create a hashtag that nobody has, that's literally yours. And now every time somebody interacts with that content, what it's doing is storing data on that hashtag. So now you can use a lot less hashtags because now it's like, okay, for example, my hashtag is Seen the Grill. Like if you've been paying attention to a lot of the shit that I've been doing over the page, like the page changing from like when I was using the hashtag Palacafe. Yo, I thought, nigga, that's my word. I made that shit up, bro. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It comes from peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. You know, you put the acronyms of peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, you get PLKF. I just put vowels in between it to make a word. That is a Indian word. I ain't know this shit. This shit had my content going to Turkey, nigga. Turkey and Istanbul. I said, what? Because now when I looked at the hashtag Palacafe, there was a lot of Indian people on the hashtag. It didn't matter if I decided I was going to take, like, why is it showing my American content to Indian people? They don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I had to learn that. I had to go through that fire of seeing it. So I was like, okay, I got to change my page. When I did Seen the Light, I was doing different things because it was like, I need a tag that fits, that works. Seen the Grill came about because I am a griot. Like, you feel me? I'm a historian, I'm a storyteller, I'm a musician. I put all of these things together to deliver my content. So it fits. I just embraced who I really was, put the name to it. Now, when I use the hashtag Seen the Grill, it's like, okay, every piece of content is now, so it shifts from, I need to go find people. I need to go out and, you know, to grow my audience and shit like that. It changes your perspective because, and this is how it grew to where it's like, with the 7,500 people on my old page, yeah, I was reaching 30, 50,000 people a month. No hashtags, no nothing, just repetitive content, you know? But now it's like, I only have 150 followers and I'm reaching 20 to 30,000 a month. Those numbers are significantly greater. It's like, how am I doing it? You feel me? Because I learned how the algorithm works. I took control and decided to actually learn how hashtags work, learn the science and the methodology behind all these things. So now I can be in flow with them. So now when I use the Seen the Grill hashtag, now all I need is a topic tag. I don't need 30 tags. I don't need 15 tags as an attempt to grow. No, it's like I create what I call a spear and the spearhead strategy, right? My spear is Seen the Grill. Now the spearhead is the individual topic that I'm talking about. Because now my 150 people, you feel me, that engage with my content and shit, they're building the data. So it's like, these people fuck with me. That's all I need. I need these people that fuck with me. And now because these people fuck with me, now it's like, find people like the people that fuck with me based off the hashtag that are in this particular pool, which is the topic. So let's say, for example, the post that I just made about flow state and all of that shit. And it's like, Seen the Grill, find people like that, and then go find people that align with the flow state. Show them this flow state content. It became so much more simpler because I'm no longer like just casting a wide. No, I know exactly where this shit needs to go. So now I can trim off so much fat, and now I can actually find people because now you have to look at, are there bots involved? Are there this and that and the third? So it's like now when I post my jam sessions, now when I post my podcast episodes, like I used to be, no, let me just grow. I'm gonna post podcasts, black podcast clips. I'm gonna use all of these different podcast things to go put it in. Fuck all that. I need people that are like-minded. So the people that follow me are the people that fuck with me. So now I can take this hashtag right? The Seen the Griot hashtag and just put a spearhead on it. Now, because I got to get out of shadow ban, man. I can't be shadow ban. You get shadow ban when you use the same hashtags. So if I'm constantly saying, okay, my audience is the black community, is the black consciousness, if I constantly use black consciousness, if I constantly use black culture, if I constantly use these things, anything that has black in it, they're shadow banning you off jump. We don't want you talking to black people about positive shit. Nigga, no. How dare you? But my audience is all black. So I can skip that part. So now when you know that you're using these overused hashtags, the black consciousness, black community, black thought, black this and the third, it starts to dilute you, for one. But then for two, what it's doing is flagging your page as this type of, pro-black type shit. You feel me? Yeah, you'll go to pro-black people, but you have to go through a fight to get there. Which helps with what? Shadow banning. You see what I'm saying? So if you constantly do that over time, the algorithm has really gotten very intelligent to where it's looking at it like, okay, motherfucker, we see where you trying to put your content, but it's like it analyzes all pieces of content. If this content doesn't go with black consciousness, why would I put it there? This ain't the old hashtags. These ain't the whole old hashtags we used to have where it's just like, yo, go put it somewhere. And then now, if my content is good enough, it shows, they're not using, they're working on SEO now. This is now a keyword. This is being used as a keyword. So if I'm using it as keyword and it's black consciousness and you talking about art, and you talking about let's say you got one on about black consciousness, you talking about how love is deep. You feel me? Ain't nothing black consciousness about that. Black consciousness is about, radical movements and shit like that. It's like, ain't nobody talking about love like that. So we not putting it there. But I know that my entire audience is black. So now, like I said, this is where I've learned to trim all of that fat off to simultaneously avoid the shadow ban because I'm using the same hashtag to Seen the Griot, but now I'm making the derivations when I'm using the different. That's where I'm in flow now. When I'm in control, I ultimately become out of control because now it's like, if I'm going to continue to use, let's say, I'll use a specific point right now. When I was using, there was a time when I forgot what the page name was. It was probably Seen the Professor or whatever the case may be, but I was using 4 different brand identity hashtags. I was using Seen the Light. It was under Seen the Light because I was using Seen the Light. Then I would use Seen the Mind, Seen the Thoughts, Seen the Mind, Seen the Heart, Seen the Soul, or whatever the case may be. And I was ultimately dividing all of my shit up. Like my Pala Cafe flows were Seen the Soul or Seen the Heart, one of the two. Then my word post was probably like Seen the Soul, Seen the Heart, Seen the Soul, or Seen the Mind or something. And then it was weird. But I was doing it because I was understanding. I was learning these things, right? And it's like as I was doing that, it was still scattering it because it's like, yo, we don't know what your page is. We don't know how to find where your page is supposed to go. But then in that, I was also going in. Okay, so this is gonna be freestyle rap. So let's say from Apollo Cafe flows, it'll be hip hop, freestyle rap, conscious rap, blah blah blah. So many different hashtags. It's like now we're taking this piece of content, dividing it up into 4 things. What if you start using hashtags that conflict with each other? And this is something that I had done before. I would use for example, I made a post about winning and losing, or whatever the case may be, right? And in the hashtag, I put hashtag winning, hashtag losing. Those are 2 conflicting realities. Which, if a confused mind says no, algorithms or AI, their intelligence in a way, it's going to say no, it's confused. I don't know whether you're talking about winning or losing. These are 2 different worlds. Winning and losing are 2 different worlds. This content can't be in both places at one time. So I'm not going to put this content anywhere. It's like, damn, nigga, you really don't fuck with me? Like, nigga, you can go put it in the losing people. This is a message for losers. This is also a message for winners if they decide to do that. You feel me? But then now, this is where my words come in. I could take that same piece of content and find one word. This is where vocabulary and all this other shit comes in. My skills as wordsmith and shit. It's like, what's the one word that defines this entire thing? Because that's my spearhead. Go send it there because now it's relevant all the way around. You see what I'm saying? So now when I post my gym sessions and shit, my Pala Cafe flows, I no longer have to put freestyle rap, this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I'm going to put Sing the Griot and I'm going to put Wordsmith. Take it to the wordsmiths. Like that's where I need you to take this content. Now, Sing the Griot, I have already built the people that like, they share, they repost, they do all of that shit. Like they're building the data in the Sing the Griot hashtag. Even to my stories, like all of that. Like they all have Sing the Griot in it. So they're building that. So now my content is gonna always circulate within my people and they're gonna keep, refining it. So now it's now like, okay, here's my following. They're all chronicled under Sing the Griot. Now go send this to somewhere. So now when I do a podcast clip, I no longer have to do like hashtag podcast clips. I don't do that anymore. I just take the subject matter of what I'm talking about and then I send it out that way under Sing the Griot. Because it's like, find people that are like this, that are in this Sing the Griot pool and then send it to them. The reason why I paused is I was about to say something else, but I wanted to finish that thought first. This was something that I actually learned doing social media marketing. Like when I was running Facebook ads and learning the methodology behind Facebook ads, I realized your algorithm works just like the ads. It's just, I pay for, if I can figure out how your algorithm works to run ads, I don't need to run ads anymore. Because I understand that you find a system, you find a structure, you find a lookalike audience, you're doing this on your own. I'm going to pay you to do that. So now it takes away the efforts on my part, because like, hey, you throw money at it. It's like, but what can I do to keep the money? Learn the system. You feel me? I'm now doing the same thing that Facebook ads does. Yeah, is it going to take a little longer? Yeah, but it's really not, because they're still going to do the same thing that they would have done for a Facebook ad. Or meta ad, let me say that. Because now it's like, okay, you're going to boost this post. Now it's like is this post going to be a boost? Is this post for conversion? Is this post for this? Is this post for that? Is this post for this? Once you learn the different levels of it, now you say, okay, I'm going to take this entire system that you have with your ads and just apply it to my Instagram and apply it to my content posting. And this translates across all social platforms, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever. Once you know how their ad system works, you know how their distribution works. So now you bypass, because all it's going to do is when you go to the ads or whatever the case may be, I'm giving some gems today. I'm going to get back to the conversation, the flow, but this is necessary because it helps. Because now I'm explaining how I can get into flow by stepping out of control. You feel what I'm saying? Because now when you study the ads or whatever, it's like, it's not on topics, it's on behaviors. So it's like, if I look at this particular topic, it's like, what are the behaviors of the people in this topic? Then it's going to start to find that. So now I'm like, I can create a lookalike audience because, like, let's say I have 100 followers. All you need is 100 followers to create a lookalike audience. It's like, okay, find the people like this. Now, here are the specific filters that I need you to go through. All that is done with hashtags now. Hashtags and SEO, but specifically hashtags. So now it's like, you're already creating a lookalike audience based off, you're now going to create a lookalike audience based off my hashtag. Now, I'm going to now leverage the topic tag of what I'm talking about. So now you're like, okay, this content goes with this tag and we need it to look like this people. Okay, we'll do that. Now, when the content is potent enough, now what helps it with quote unquote social proof is like, now when your core audience likes it, shares it, all this other thing, it's like, okay, we see exactly who's going to like this. And it sends it to them. You feel what I'm saying? And then you can get in the flow. You can get in the flow and just do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? But again, in learning the backside of that shit, I was like, how do I prevent shadow ban? That served as the undercurrent. It was a gift and a curse because it's like, that's what made me learn it the way that I learned it. Because it's like, I got to do whatever I can to avoid shadow ban, but it's still, what good does it do if I can't step out of the control of what the shadow ban has done to me? Sometimes we look at healing and we look at, the actual getting out of trauma and PTSD and all of that shit. And we don't look at, you have to remove the source of it. My entire social platform from here, TikTok, whatever, it's the same. It's like, I don't want to get shadow banned. I don't want to get shadow banned, which ultimately makes me realize that everything that I've done is what got me shadow banned. How do I make peace with that so I don't get shadow banned anymore? You can't. You can't. You just had to say fuck the shadow ban and do it anyway. Because like I said, tying it all the way back to when I was saying, like, sometimes we'll amplify one bad thing. We'll amplify one bad thing and we won't amplify the good things to the same capacity, which gives us a different tailwind, which gives us a different push when we're in our flow state. So if my flow state is always to avoid shadow ban, how am I going to be in a flow state for growing? How am I going to be in a flow state of actually producing the content that I want to produce? No, I'm producing the content that doesn't get me shadow banned. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like how I was talking about, the mind doesn't perceive what you can and can't do. It just formulates the world according to where your mind is programmed. If you say, I can't fight, your mind programs your world to where you can't, to where you do not have the ability to do so. You feel what I'm saying? So if my mind, if I've already programmed it, I do not want to get shadow banned. I need to post content so I don't get shadow banned. Guess what kind of content I'm going to post? The content that doesn't get me shadow banned. But that's not the content my people fuck with. They fuck with the content that gets me shadow banned. You feel me? So rather than trying to, because it's like when I remember when the boom happened, I remember the post, it was in 2020. I was talking about the transgender athletes and shit. It was like they just want to compete. Well, compete against other men or transgenders and get better as men. No, I'm going to be a man who turns into a woman to go compete against women. That's not cool. And that was the one that started the shadow ban shit. And then, of course, COVID and Rona and me talking about the jab and 5G and all this other shit. Like, yo, that shit had the government watching me, bro. Motherfuckers be thinking I be reaching and I be capping when I say that shit, but they was really watching me. And a lot of people be thinking, oh, the government didn't run up. They don't got to run up on you. You don't, like, you know when you're being watched. You know when you're being watched. You feel me? And then when I consider the people, the bots that was coming out, like, nigga, I noticed the trolls. I get a different level of trolls, bro. I get a different level of trolls. And these trolls they're not regular trolls. You feel what I'm saying? I can go back and forth with these trolls and they, then the fact checker shit, all of that shit, it was all how I got shadow banned. And all of that shit was what I was trying to avoid. And, it's like, yo, fuck it. Fuck it. At what point are you going to allow them to keep fucking with you like that? Because that's going to fuck with your flow state. You feel me? That's what's gonna fuck with your flow state. This is why, if you see the change, this is why I don't like all of the posts that I would usually screenshot or put aside to, all like that's why all of that shit stopped, bro. And that's why that shit stays in my stories. But that's why I stopped doing that shit, because it's like, nah, bro, I can't. Y'all play with me too much. It became PTSD, and it affected my flow state. You feel me? But like I said, this translates to other things. This translates to other things because it makes me not want to talk about trading and investing. It makes me not want to talk about masculinity. It makes me not want to talk about, my merch and all that. It makes me not want to do certain things because it's like, I don't want to get shadow banned. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Like, do you, bro? Like, that's what this is supposed to be about. Like, yeah, you got to maneuver with the terms and conditions and all of the other shit, the community guidelines and shit, but fuck it. Like, community guidelines are only violated when they violate it. And it is what it is after that. You feel me? But that undercurrent, this is the point that I'm making. I'm going to get back on track. That undercurrent is what affects our flow state. Because the flow state kicks in whether when we're out of control and we're in flow. This goes to the point that I was saying about the wild beast and the God. Wild beast is just out of control. But the God is in flow. That's it. That's it. The wild beast is completely out of control. The God is in control. In flow. And the two experiences look the same. They look the same. But it's based off the distinction of the wild beast typically does not have any development. It's beginner's luck. The wild beast does not have any form of development. However, the God has the development and now is refining the improvement. But see, you can't refine the improvement. You can't improve under control. That's why it becomes in flow, which is now the veteran's experience. The veteran literally moves the same as the beginner. You feel me? But the veteran's experience now has to remove the control that was used to develop and transition from the beginner's luck into the veteran's experience. The wild beast The deity has to remove. I mean, the God has to remove the flow. I mean, the control of what developed them from the wild beast to the God. But where that problem comes in is that you think once I release the control, I revert back to the wild beast. I revert back to the beginner. No, 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 no. You transition into the veteran. You transition into the God simply because you have the development. You can't erase it. You can't erase it. You have to embody it. You see what I'm saying? You just do. You feel me? And that is what a lot of the experience that a lot of what I've been fighting with over the last couple months, last couple years is trying to embrace the flow, embrace the God in it. You feel me? I had got like, I wanted, I low key felt like before I can embrace the God in it, I had to make sure that there was no beast. You can't. The beast is necessary. The beast is necessary. They're opposite sides of the same coin. And it's almost like in Sophia 3 when I talked about the tree of life. Like when you get all the way to Malkuth and now you go back to Kether, it's like, yeah, you start over as the fool again. But it doesn't erase everything that you've gone through. Now you're a fool with all of these things, which means now what you're doing is you're relinquishing the control and you're stepping into flow. That's all the fool is. That's all the fool is. You gain the wisdom to return back to being a fool again. So that way, what you can do, you gain the wisdom, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding. So that way you can return back to the fool and do it all over again. You can go from the God back to the beast. And now you can be the beast, you feel me, unbound, unrestrained, because you went flow as the God, but you return back to the beast to develop something new. But if you get stuck in that middle loop of the control that you have to develop to become the God first before you can go back, you feel me, to the beginning. Go back to the beginning as the God. Go back to the beginning, you know what I'm saying? You just constantly feel like you got to go back as the beast. You have to go, like, you can't forget it. You just have to get in flow. You have to get out of control and get in flow. It's like, if we look at a dog, I don't want to call humans dogs or call people dogs and shit like that. But if you look at a wild dog, right, at some point when you tame it, or whatever the case may be, it gets to a point where you can take the leash off. Like my brother, he had a pit bull. My brother's real good with dogs. You know, he had a pit bull. And he had trained it so well that he didn't need to put it on the leash. Like the wild beast will come out. But then it's like the motherfucker, it was like they had a 6-foot kennel. The motherfucker dog would climb the kennel and get out and go walk himself if motherfuckers won't walk him. But then when my brother seen him, he'd be like, get back to the house. Just like that. He'll go back to the house. Won't fuck with nobody, won't do nothing. Just go right back to the house. If my brother said get him, he got him. If my brother said don't move, he won't move. But he did that because he had tamed it. But then he had tamed it to the point where it didn't need to be controlled anymore. Now it could flow. You feel what I'm saying? Now it could flow. Now, when the motherfucker got in flow state and that beast came out, nigga, your ass is 8. But you wouldn't know it. Like within the house, like motherfuckers be like he was a vicious dog. It's like, nah, nigga, this nigga, man, we play with that dog. Like he looked like a bitch around us, but nigga, he won't no bitch. But that's what it means to be in flow, bro. And that's something that, like I said, within these next couple of like, and getting back into the podcast, I think that's why season 13 is taking so long. I'm having to get back into a flow. Like when I do my recaps, and I specifically when I listen between seasons 10 and 12, like midway through season 10, I could tell when I stepped out of control. No. When I was out of control, I could tell like a lot of my content, it was no longer in flow. Like it was no longer in flow. And that really, it fucked me up because like I said, it translates to other things in your life. You feel me? While I'm simultaneously trying to get the social media pages right and shit, while I'm trying to do it, like, these things are all transpiring. So it's manifesting in all areas. So it's like, you can't, when you change one thing, you have to change. When you change one thing, all things change. But if you don't change that one thing, nothing changes. You feel me? So now let's look at it from a bigger perspective. I'm looking at my content saying, hey, I can't be shadow banned, right? I don't want to be shadow banned. So now this now translates to the content that I post on social media, which is ultimately going to translate to, my podcast got to be tamed too. Because eventually I'm going to put a clip on social media. It's like, what things am I doing on a grander scale that are taking me away from being in flow? And it could be this Aries moon that just happened. It gave me this revelation too and shit, whatever. I don't, who knows? But it really showed me that trying to maintain so much control in a space where I was supposed to be in flow is what made me lose control. You feel what I'm saying? Perfectionism is the development of the beast. But like I said, it comes to a point where the beast has to acknowledge its perfection and now go into the flow of the God and move according to that. Flow is easy. Flow is not hard, but it's also not difficult. Wait, what did I say? No, I said it wrong. Fuck it. Scratch that. Forget what I said. But flow is very easy, but it can be difficult at the same time. Like I said, if there's no delineation between being out of control. Like, you ever been in a situation, you've been in a moment where it's like, you feel like everything around you could be collapsing, but you're still calm. That's when you know you have the capacity to step into the flow, but while you're also out of control. They call them tower moments in tarot, whatever the case may be. But that's what that moment is for. That's what that moment is for. In the Tree of Life, I broke that down when I talk about the tower path or whatever the case may be. It's like, yeah, you have that moment. And that's the defining moment where it's like, step out of control and step into flow. If you study the Tree of Life and you know what follows the tower moment, you see why it makes sense that from that moment on, you're in flow. You're no longer in control. You're no longer out of control. You're in flow. But that's what the tower moment is designed to happen in life. You go through that moment solely because it's like, I am out of control. I am out of control and I need to be in control. But deeper than being in control, I need to be in flow. I need to be in flow. And if I'm not in flow, then I can't improve. If I'm not in flow, I can't improve. And we think that our improvements come by trying to maintain control. No. The art improves. The science develops. The science is the methodology. The science is the process of going, okay, A, B, C, D, E, and G. Tying it back into trading and investing. The science is pocket, pullback, battlefield, upper hand, final push. You feel me? The candle, the time frames, 2 time frames, all that shit. Like, all of that. That's the science. That's the development. You have to get that down. Then you have to go do the art. You're not going to open the charts and it's always going to be pocket, pullback, battlefield, upper hand. You're going to open the charts one day, oh, I'm already in the battlefield. Let me step back and prepare for the battlefield. You feel me? I don't need to start over. I'm at the battlefield now and I don't need to start over and say, okay, now I'm in the pocket of this. Now let me go down the time. No. My time frame, the time frame that I'm fucking with right now is at the battlefield. I need to flow within the context of the battlefield. All the other shit has already happened. The pocket, the pullback, everything has already happened. I know what comes next after the battlefield, the upper hand. So if I decide to enter, I know I can't ride it to the top. I have to pivot. I have to adjust to what's going to happen because this upper hand is going to do what it does. You feel what I'm saying? I talk about double ups and shit like that, but those are something totally different. But all these things were me making sure the science was right just so I can step in the flow. But I never stepped into the flow because I was so focused on the science. You feel me? I stopped flowing. Like, once I created the course and then I switched to the business side of it, I think, I'm going to say this and I'm going to start trying to wrap it up. But like, that's the business side of everything. That's what really took me out of flow so much. You feel me? That's what took me out of flow so much. Trying to make sure that I was no longer in flow. I was no longer in flow. I was in control. I was in control, which was making me slide out of control. Because it's like I'm trying to merge all of these different worlds together and make sure I don't overshadow one to focus on the other and all this other shit. And I stopped I stopped the science. And then I got out of control without being in flow. I'm in flow now. Don't get me wrong. I've stepped into flow. But this is revelation. This revelation. You see the page now. I simplify this shit like a motherfucker. Like I got a pin post at the top that shows all the books, the courses, all of that shit. Then I got the story highlights where it has, everything. So you come to the page, you can click it and shit and all of that shit. And the links to all of that shit is set up because now it's like, okay, you got to get into flow. Only way to get into flow is to get out of control. You feel me? Not be out of control, but get out of control. And I think that's such a beautiful paradox, even when you look at it from just the words perspective. Like when you can see somebody's out of control. You can see when somebody's out of control versus when they're in flow, but you can see when somebody's out of control. But then it's like we tell them, you're being out of control instead of getting out of control. Because that's where like control and being in control, being out of control are opposite sides of the same coin in a sense that one flows from the other. Trying to be in control too much takes you out of it. You feel me? Because you can only control so much. You feel me? And this is what they teach us, when it comes to like universal law and the universal terminologies and shit like that. We'd be like, well, you can only control what you can control. Yeah, after that, you get in the flow. That's the only way you're going to grow is when you flow. Tying it back into the beginning, the part that I was saying. That's the only way you're going to grow is when you're in flow. And when I looked at like why my growth is stunted, why my growth has been stunted, is because I'm not in flow. I'm not in flow, but I'm not getting out of control. I'm out of control, but I'm not getting out of control to say, okay, bet the development is done. There's nothing more to develop. Now its only thing is to improve. You can't do that if you're still trying to use development tactics. You can't improve with development tactics. You can't improve with what you use to develop. It don't work. It don't work. I'm telling you right now, this is experience, it's testimony right now. I got a testimony. This is my testimony, motherfucker. God damn, this is my testimony. But you can't improve when you're still trying to develop. Because now you're needing to move different tactics and shit. You're needing to do different things and explore from a different world space. And if you're not able to get out of flow, if you're not able to walk into the flow, you'll never go to the next levels. It's like moving from survival to thriving. How you survive is not how you thrive. But when you survived for so long and survival is all you take survival tactics into thrival mode. Thrival ain't a word, but fuck with me, my nigga. When you try to, and that's where sabotage comes in. Trying to survive in places where you're trying to thrive, trying to survive in places where you're supposed to thrive is where you sabotage shit. Because that world doesn't exist. You're no longer existing in that world. But now you're taking what's in that world there. So it's like when you hear people say, they should have never gave you niggas money. If you come from poverty and you get money, you still bring that poverty with you. That's why there's more money, more problems. Why isn't it more money, more solutions? Because you weren't solution oriented when you started. You were problem oriented, and now you got more money. So the problems just got bigger. They got wider because there was never solutions there in place. Because your only solution was money. It wasn't systems. It wasn't cycles. It wasn't none of that. You feel what I'm saying? So you can't get into flow. And this is something that I learned entrepreneurship wise. The reason why you set up systems is to move into flow. That was one of my biggest trajectories and my biggest changes when I went from the hustler to the entrepreneur. But then I knew that, I got to get a system. This has to be in systems. But I didn't realize that setting up systems was getting into flow. But when you try to hustle with the system, it don't work. But then when you just let the flow happen with this, like, that's where scaling comes in. That's when you can do whatever the fuck you want to do with it, because it's like my system is straight, so I can flow with it. The system is straight, so I can flow with it. You feel what I'm saying? It's different. This revelation was needed. Because even down to the podcast, there's episodes that there's shit that I've been wanting to say. So I'm gonna hold that for season 13. Now let the shit out. I got so wrapped up in control that I lost the freedom. Oh wow! Ironically, Palakafe, peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. The freedom. I lost the freedom of it all. By locking into the control, I lost the fucking freedom. Freedom comes from flow. Freedom is the flow. But now do you see why I say freedom is what it is? And it's like, you knew this, bro. That's one of your staples and shit. But some shit got to be unlocked in certain points. The peace, control of the chaos. The freedom. I'm going to change the definition of the freedom, because I always say freedom is the ability to, deal with, to basically live how you want to live, and be in with the consequences that come with it. But now I want to change freedom a little bit. And I think maybe that's why freedom had never been fully defined yet. Because peace is the control of chaos. Love is the power for betterment through correction. Knowledge is the capacity to absolve ignorance. And now freedom is remaining in flow. And considering how I now have broken this down, even for myself, it's different, because it's like you have moved beyond control. Freedom is moving beyond control and into flow. But you still have to learn how to control something. You still have to learn the control and the methodology for development. You have to be the best to be better. Like all of these different cliches and monikers and shit that I said early in the beginning of the episode is now tying into this, and that's the freedom. Freedom is flow. Freedom is flow and being able to fully operate in flow state at all times. But to operate in flow state at all times, the wild beast has to become the God. But the freedom and the flow comes from when the God is able to operate as the wild beast without operating as a beast. And don't forget to check out Palakafe Clothing, formerly Just Scenes merch. Get all of your intricate designs crafted specifically for the melanated being to develop a positive imagery within self, and to have a little bit of fun in the process. From the peace, love, knowledge, and freedom to the dead horses and water designs, all the styles are crafted for the imagery to make you feel as you're supposed to feel. Because as I always say, the best way to fit in is to stand out. And what better way to stand out than with your exclusive styles from Palakafe Clothing. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end it there. I needed to get that out. I really need to get that out. That definitely was not, that wasn't the wild beast talking. That was definitely the God talking. I was in flow with that one, like for real. And see, shit like this is what I'm saying. Like, I can tell, I know now. Like, the downloads are going to come through regardless, but now I know when I'm in flow and when I'm not. Like, I can look back at certain podcast episodes and say, nah, nigga, you wasn't in control with that. Like, you weren't, like, you was in control. I'm gonna say it. You was trying to control the situation. Let me talk about it. Like, nah, man, I lost the flow. And by losing the flow, I can pinpoint exactly where shit turned, exactly where shit went different. I lost the flow. I lost the fucking flow. But now that I got the flow back, and I know that I got the flow back now, because I'm definitely gonna re-listen to this episode a couple times and shit. Like, I've been re-listening to like a lot of my old episodes, and I can see the difference. It's like, yo, I can see the moments. I can literally hear, okay, I can tell by this episode that I wasn't flowing. I was just, giving the gems and shit. Don't get me wrong, the shit still came out. The gems still flowed how they needed to flow. But I can tell when I can tell when I'm in flow, and I can tell when I'm not in control. And I can tell the moments when the flow kicks in and I scale it back and put the control on. I can tell. I can literally see it. But this was a needed conversation for me. And just being able to give the game behind that lesson. You feel what I'm saying? Because this is something that I've been battling. Like, do I come back different with a new podcast? Rebrand? Do I go back and rebrand it? None of that shit. Rebranding, all of that shit. None of that shit fucking matters if you ain't in flow. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. Like, we think that when things aren't going our way, this is not just because I'm having this episode or whatever, but it's like in life, like I've talked to people, we think when things aren't going our way and shit, that it's like, yo, everything is out of control. Why is everything out of control? If I can just regain control, it's just like, what if it's not about regaining control? Because there's no control to regain. It's about walking and getting into flow. That's it. Take a step back and just really think about that and sit with that for a moment. What if you don't have to get in control? You have to get into flow, because control is what got you here. Which means control don't work. I ain't gonna say control don't work. Control has already served its purpose. Control has fully served its purpose. Now its purpose is to alley-oop you into flow. But if you're not able to do that, you won't flow correctly. And this is like tying it into, producers and consumers. And, think about some of the advice that you take. Like you take from some of the shit that we get from people is about our control, and some people can't see that. Like some people can't tell you, hey, you're not in control because you're out of flow. They just say you're not in control. And so now you think, if I could just regain control, and no matter how and it's a paradox, because the more control you try to gain, the more chaos you see. And you're like, why is there more? I'm trying to gain control. Because you're not in flow. You're not trying to get in flow. You're beyond the need for control at this point. And once you walk into flow, you'll realize how much control you really have. Like the control comes back. The control literally comes back when you get in the flow, because you realize that, oh, I'm not supposed to be in control. I'm supposed to be in flow. And now things are now in control. No, things are flowing. The control is creating the blockages in the water. The control is creating speaking of water, the control is creating a dam. The control is creating a dam. You're thinking that nothing gets flowing because if I just got this, no. Every time you try to put more control onto some shit, you're putting another log on the dam. It's like the beaver. You're putting another wall, another piece of wood on the fucking dam. Every time you try to gain control, rather than moving the impediments and getting into flow and adjusting as the flow moves. When water runs, it doesn't give a fuck what's in front of it, what's around it. It adjusts when it comes. A tree can be planted in the middle of a river. It can't, but fuck with me for a second. A tree can be in the middle of a river. The water's not going to stop because this tree, it goes around the tree. The tree is no longer an obstacle. It's there, but I'm flowing around you. The water is, it doesn't even have to think about it. It's just, go around. It never stops. You can go to a lake, waterfalls, whatever. Water is going to find its way to get to where it's supposed to get to flow where it's supposed to flow. You feel what I'm saying? You can have bricks, you can have boulders, you got all kind of shit sitting in the middle of the water. It's just going to go around it. And I think with control, we try to go through the boulders. We try to go through the trees. You can't. Go around them. Flow around them. That's where I was saying with flow, you get the flexibility. It was just the point of rigidity and fluidity. You feel me? The rigidity sees, okay, this tree, I got to move beyond it. But then now the flexibility says, but I can't go through it. I can't go through it. I got to go around it. Now, when you have a dam, it's like, I have to move the dam so I can flow again. You feel me? That's an additional piece to flow. It is not just about avoiding, no, because sometimes some things you just have to completely move altogether in order to get the flow back again. Tying it back into the posting content and shit like that, I couldn't get in the flow if my mind was still, like I said, still set on motherfucking shadow banning and shit. But then trying to be strategic and, okay, let me store all of these things on threads, and then periodically every 2 hours or so I'm gonna post. No, fuck that shit. When the thought comes and this is the download that I gotta give out, I gotta give it out. You feel me? I gotta give it out then. And when I'm giving it out then, it flows, my nigga. It flows so poetically. So poetically. It's when I try to, use the content and go back to the old one and say, what was I thinking here? And then I try to recollect on what I thought and where I was at. Nah, fuck that. When the moment comes, I just let it all flow. And when it all flows, it has a more cohesive unit. You see what I'm saying? But I had to stop trying to control. I had to stop putting up more logs into the dam and realize, yo, bro, you're stopping the flow by trying to control it. Be the flow. You feel me? Don't control it, be it. It's different because now you know how to navigate. When to navigate, where to navigate, how to navigate, to what extent, and what things you learn how, okay, if I'm in flow, now I need to remove these blockages. But when I'm trying to control, I need to keep doing the same thing. That's where insanity develops. Because when you're trying to be in control, I need to do the same things it's like, no, you can't. You need to do what's required. You feel what I'm saying? Trying so hard to be hands-on and be in control, you prevent your flow, bro. And I mentioned this, but I probably didn't finish the whole thought behind it. Was like with music and shit. Like when I freestyle and I flow, it's like I write different. You feel me? I write different. But when I try to have control, it don't come out right. Case in point, I'll say this and I'm really going to wrap it up. Some of my jam sessions, if you listen to them, I had to edit it out, but it'll say IamJustSeen.com because I didn't know this until I recorded the songs and shit. So some of them are still up. But when you put a website in a song, it won't let you distribute it. It's like, whatever. So some of them will say IamJustSeen. And it's really saying IamJustSeen.com, but I had the .com edited out. But then when I look at those jam sessions and those Palakafe flows, it's like, here's what I was trying to do. I said, you know what? I'm going to put my website randomly on a page, and then I'm going to write up to that point. I lost the flow. And those were some of my, in my opinion, some of my weakest flows. Now, I did say some dope shit in them, but some of them weren't. It's like, now I'm trying to fit this bar. Like what I was saying had absolutely nothing to do. And there was absolutely no possible lead up that IamJustSeen.com would have fit in there. But now I had to make it fit. And now it fucked up the whole flow. I put a dam in the shit. I dropped a big ass boulder right in the middle of the water. I blocked the flow. Just like that. But then when I stepped away and I was like, all right, we're not going to do the IamJustSeen.coms and shit. We're not gonna do none of that shit. Now granted, I still got some that I gotta record because it's like, nah, nigga, that shit done. We gotta put that out. But then I can tell the difference between when I'm in flow state and when I'm in control. When I'm in flow doesn't compare to when I'm in control. From the outside looking in, you still gonna get the bars and shit. It's like, okay, but then I can tell, nah, I'm more creative when I'm not in control because what's not lingering in the back of my mind? Remember, IamJustSeen.com is coming up. IamJustSeen.com is coming up. You got to figure it out. Now it's like, bruh, that's not fun. That's not fun. But when I'm in flow, whatever comes, I got 2 that I'm about to drop. I got 2 that I'm working on and about to drop. One of them has the IamJustSeen.com and it has it twice. The other one doesn't. You will see the drastic difference between the two. I'm gonna give y'all the intros of both of them. So one of them is, before I get to rapping rapidly with this accuracy, I'm gonna need you to visit IamJustSeen.com because I might have a discount going on. I don't know, but the flow back crazy. Hold back maybe just a little bit. Now I'm about to lose it with the green light, be like vroom. Because I put that in there. Like I started, like I didn't even write the song yet. I had just like 3 lines down on the page or whatever. I just put IamJustSeen.com and I said, now write to fit that. You feel me? I was in, and I did it twice. And it was like, the second time it was like, C's, and this is the same time, like, C's get degrees, A's call to lazy, and the health of the mental, be sending them into the drugs and clubs, unplugging, IamJustSeen.com. Again, that is my shit. All of my shit lives there thus far. I didn't have to put that, but it fucked up the whole flow. You feel me? In a sense. Everything else is still fire. You feel me? But it still gave me a limitation. Now to the other song. It starts off, no more depression over expressing my incandescence. I give the message, you'll get the lesson if you could catch it. I'm too eclectic, but too protected, don't disrespect it. I'm cloaked in gold since I left the hole when I came in naked. In that whole, I'm not even bound by the fact that I'm going to eventually run into a IamJustSeen.com, so I have to be mindful of that when I write. You feel me? My other favorite part in that, it was like, I don't even want to give my favorite part, but I love this favorite part because it's like that shit was hard. It was like, what I say? I said, motherfucking, something about, I said, pardon me for being politically, pardon me for being political. Let me get back and just shut up and rap. Shut up and rhyme and set up a rhyme scheme by bitches that like me, eat dick like an ice cream cone and swallows me when my cream goes down the throat while a coochie wet like it's supposed to be. Then kick her out and never let a bitch get close to me. See? And then I killed the beat and I'm like, I don't even sound convinced of talking like that no more. And this is my favorite part. I'm like, sarcasm, jaw jacking. I told you I'm not a rapper. I'm a poet. I'm a griot that flows better than fiat currency on beats. I'm Curry from deep threes, drop perfectly. Peep, see my purpose in cursive. I'm not going to keep going because I want y'all to hear this shit for real. But nigga, when I'm in flow, I'm in flow. But when I'm in control, I'm in control. And if I keep remaining in control, I'll never get where I'm trying to get to. But if I can remain in flow, I can get to where I need to. And this is what I was saying, because it's like, when it's in one part of your life, it's because it's in all of your life. When you're trying to remain in control in one aspect of your life, you have to do it in all aspects of your life, because that is where your mindset is at. When you get in flow in one aspect of your life, you get in flow in every aspect of your life. But you don't get into flow until you step out of control. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And our kids, man, I love kids so much because kids are always in flow. Kids are always in flow, my nigga. Like, they have not been tainted by the world like we have or whatever, but kids are always in flow. We be thinking they ain't got no control over it. I seen this quote that said, if you see your child doing something dangerous, carefully leave them alone. They in flow. They not going to get hurt. They know what they doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They are in flow. My nigga, they are in flow. And the beauty of a child in flow is like amazing, because it's like there's no limitation. They shattered it all. They know exactly what they need to do. But the moment we force our children into control, but we don't develop them or whatever the case may be, that's when life goes the way life is going to go for them. And it's hard to get into flow. Trust me, flow is hard to get into when you're trying to maintain control all the time. You feel me? It fucks with you. It fucks you up. You have to remain in flow. You have to remain in flow, constant flow. But flow, like I said, is when you're stepping out of control. It's not when you're being out of control. It's stepping out of control. Our kids don't know how to step into control. They only know how to be in flow. We have to teach them that. So when your baby's in flow and it seems like they wilding, seems like they going crazy or whatever, like, watch them in flow. Put some pots and pans on them. Watch them bang on it like they in flow. Now, the control teach them how to maneuver and how to use their flow with time. But don't let control be what binds them. Don't let it build a dam. Allow it to move them into flow. Because once they in flow, they flow. But I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And I'm going to see y'all all on the next one. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.